We talk about the sawmills and lumber industry, turpentine industry here in Flagler County. It was a big industry here. Agriculture and forestry played a part in our history. A couple hundred years. The tools that were used to cut the trees and clear the forest land have advanced a lot. When we first started, it was just axes and saws. This is one of the saws that would have been used. It's a two-man buck saw. Basically, would have had two people on it, and they would have ran it back and forth, or side to side, depending on the handle configuration. This one could have another piece of handle coming out, make it easier to pull. Once the tree was down, it had to be cut into smaller pieces. And that's where frame saw would have came in. And basically you hold it like this and saw. And that's a lot of work. We're always trying to make our life easier and more productive. As steam engines came in, they started adding belts to it and creating other equipment, but it was still stationary. The first chainsaws that as we know them, were invented in the 1920s. 1928, Stihl came out with an electric chainsaw. In 1929, a company out of Germany named Dolmar produced the first available gas chainsaw, and this is what one looked like. Very similar to the saws we have now. As a matter of fact, this is a Dolmar chainsaw. I've had this thing for years. It used to be cleaned up, tuned up, and it's probably one of my favorite saws I've ever had. Those originals, two-man saws, single man, still heavy, but it cuts some wood. As we got into more tractors and stuff that they could do, another piece of equipment was made to cut wood. We had multiple sawmills around here, and one of these tools would have been used at sawmills for an add-on sale type product. And we have one of those here. Let me introduce you. This is a buzz saw. It had been hooked up to either a steam engine or the PTO on a tractor. If you don't know what a PTO is, it's powertrain takeoff. And this is what an early PTO looked like. Basically, they would have ran a belt from that pulley that was pointed out in the picture to this. And as this turned, the blade would spin. Very similar to how a sawmill works, except for logs weren't going in this way, it was cutting this way. This one was made by David Bradley, roughly 1915 to 1930. Sears and Roebuck bought the David Bradley Company in 1910, and continue to produce under their name. David Bradley's been around a long time. They started out making plows and farm equipment. Made a great two-wheel tractor. And basically, this is used to cut, it's called slab wood. When you have logs going through a sawmill, you're looking to make a round log into squares. You got the side pieces that are cut off of it. And instead of throwing them away, our forefathers and mothers were always reusing or using things. Nothing went to waste. They became firewood. So basically, you would have cutoffs or something like these. You can see nowadays it's live edge and it's very popular. Bar conclusions. But this would have been a long piece, but would have been used fireplaces, wood stoves, for a heating source, fuel source. We'll just use this piece for our example. Some of these buzzsaws, David Bradley wasn't the only one who made these. Mine just happens to be a Bradley. Some of them had a tilting table that went into the blade. Mine slides. And this is a local. I got this locally. But basically, as the blade's spinning, you slide the wood into it. So, like that. And it would cut off pieces. You might have a 12-foot long slab you're throwing up here, and you're only wanting, actually this is a little long for a wood stove or a fireplace, about that much, and you just keep chopping it off, and that became a fuel source. You notice there are no safety features on this. It's a big stamped or cut steel blade, and it's easy to get your hand in there. With any piece of equipment, you need to have some safety precautions. This one has a red bar, and you don't get your hands any further out than that. When this thing is spinning, they spun right around 650, 700 RPM, revolutions per minute. It's basically kind of a table saw. It could cut parts off of you, not just the wood. So you always had to be careful. There's stories of these things coming apart. Not necessarily stamped steel. Today they have carbide teeth that you can replace into here. This one does not. This is just straight steel teeth. That was how they made extra money. Like I said, nothing went to waste. They would cut pieces off of the slabs that were coming off at the sawmill. Cool technology. There's people still use these. You could hook this up to the back of the tractor or one similar and move it around. This one was meant to be stationary. It would have been staked into the ground to keep it from tilting. And this would have been at your wood yard or the sawmill, cutting out pieces to be sold or used later to cook with or heat with. It's PZ, Kings Road Historic District. It's a cool old tool, big saw blade.